Hello everybody, this is Fernando for the latest 10 things you didn't know about video. That's right, I've slightly modified things. In other words, for this playlist, instead of focusing on 20 items, I'm going to slim it down to 10. I thought it would make it more convenient for viewers when it comes to time and length, and also it makes it a little easier to find topics to talk about because sometimes 20 items is a little bit too much. And so in this case, I think it'll be much more easier all around, but let's see how it goes. But in this case, it has to do with a very spooky creature, one that I've talked about here on my channel, both when it comes to an actual video and also some interviews with some people in my ghost group who have encountered this creature, and also some other encounters that I've found online. Very, very spooky creature. It's found throughout multiple parts of Central Texas and especially South Texas and also Mexico. And you're looking at a representation of it here. It's 10 things you didn't know about La Lechuza. So let's go ahead and let's talk about that here. I'll also mention one of those encounters that we may have had in terms of our group. And I'd love to hear what your own encounters are too. Chances are there's going to be people out there that are going to be watching this video that have had some kind of confrontation with La Lechuza. And if so, post it in the comments below, please. So number one is this. What is La Lechuza? Well, if you look at the translation associated with it, lechuza basically translates to the word owl in English. So in other words, la lechuza is a big owl. Well, that's at least some of the representations associated with her, but otherwise she's known also as a huge owl lady, and in other cases it's more along the lines of a shapeshifter. So there's various versions associated with her. It could be something also involving an owl mixed with a woman. So in some cases it's a huge bird that also happens to have a woman's face, or in other representations, it's the opposite. It's something involving the face of an owl and also involving the body of a woman. So many different versions of it, but that's essentially what La Lechuza is on a universal level. Number two, the thing is involving her descriptions. So even then, when it comes to those various versions, there's again some physical characteristics that are tied to her on a more universal stance. One is that she is often considered to be very large. She's been described as being almost 7 feet tall, and because she's part owl, she tends to have more on the lines of a 15-foot wingspan. That is humongous. Can you imagine something along those lines? And then on top of that, some of the other descriptions involve talons, and then other descriptions involve having a beak, and so on. So this is a very large creature on a physical level that looks like a small owl from far away, but when you see it up close and personal, that's when you see again the size associated with her. This is going to come into play in just a little bit when it comes to the strength associated with La Lechuza. Number three is this. The time period associated with La Lechuza is also very unique. You are pretty much safe when it comes during the daytime. Now, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't do things necessarily just scot-free. More on that here in just a moment. Instead, though, you're pretty clear in the day, but at night, that's when things take a different turn. That's apparently her hunting time. This is also points to the fact that she's more along the lines of a nocturnal creature too. She uses this time to fly around up into the air, or in the nighttime she's there perched on one of the trees looking for people or looking for others to scare or terrorize and so on. One of the telltale signs associated with her happens to be the sounds. If you happen to hear more on the lines of a bird screeching, especially at night, then that's her, and she's out there and she's looking for somebody to target. So that's again where you have to be a little bit more careful during the nighttime. If you're in an area too that's prone to sightings associated with La Lechuza, then that's a whole other level as well. Number four is this. Another characteristic that she poses as is something along the lines of as a baby. This is very bad, very, very sinister when you think about it, because she'll make it sound like it's a baby that's in distress, a baby that's crying, a baby that needs help. And when that happens, that'll naturally cause people to try to find out what's going on. She uses this though as a ruse because apparently when she does this, she's usually right outside a location where the person is. This is interesting too. For some reason, it seems like houses, apartments, farms, whatever, she can't go in. Like for all the activity that she does, as far as flying around and pouncing on people and so on, she can't open doors or she can't go into windows. Who knew, right? But at least when it comes to that, she'll in turn make the cries of a baby, cause the person to go outside, and then once that happened, that's it. They're basically food at that point for anybody involving La Lechuza's next meal. So if you hear out there in the middle of nowhere something involving a baby crying, where obviously there shouldn't be, something along those lines, then there's a good chance that there is a La Lechuza right nearby, and you have to be careful. She moves very, very fast as well. Number 5 is this: ways to get La Lechuza to notice you. These are easy ways to avoid having her around you. One of them is this: do not whistle at night. This is very important. In fact, we talk about this in our own group on Spectre to make sure that this is nothing that we accidentally bring about when it comes to an encounter with her. If you're out there in the middle of nowhere at night, and especially if you're in an area that's again prone to sightings associated with La Lechuza, you want to make sure that you don't whistle at night. Don't whistle, and even inside your house, like outside your window, something along those lines, because for whatever reason that especially irritates her. I don't know if it causes her to home in on that whistle, or maybe it's something that she actually likes, but who knows? It causes her to show up. And when that happens, then that's when you have her attention, and that's a bad thing. So again, don't whistle at night. And apparently you'll also hear her whistle back. So when you hear that whistle coming out from nowhere, again, watch out. That's a bad sign. You just want to be careful. You want to find shelter and then stay safe for just a little bit until whatever you think is there basically moves out, basically runs around and then leaves at that point. Number 6 is this: if you thought you were safe in a car, guess what? There's a whole different thing that she can do when it comes to actions against the car. Number 1 is this: it turns out she can actually run people off the road if you're in a vehicle. I don't know how she does it when it comes to her strength, but it makes it seem like she's very strong when it comes to anything involving, I guess, her flight, because she's able to either ram the car or cause something to have the car run off the road, and then there you are by yourself, helpless, presumably in the middle of nowhere, and now you have her around your vicinity. On top of that, she has also been known to also cause vehicles to stop working, like to have the electric parts associated with them to no longer be functioning. So maybe she causes the battery to die, or maybe she causes the starter to not happen, something along those lines. But when that occurs, again, this all has to do with her taking actions in the vehicle, which you think it's safe. You're running around, you're getting like 80 miles an hour away. You are wrong. She essentially is able to follow you and then do something towards the vehicle afterward. Number 7 is this: don't shoot at her. Apparently, this is a very, very bad thing. This is one of the worst things you can do to really make her angry. If you have a gun with you, or if you have anything else, a rifle, a long arm, whatever it may be, keep it to yourself. Do not take it out. Do not shoot her. Apparently, she is immune to bullets, so it's not even a good point anyways. But if you do this, it really makes her angry, and it'll cause her to not only harm you, but also try to kill you at that point. So even if your first instinct is to take out your gun and then try to shoot her, don't do so, and then you'll be at least in a safer stance afterward. Number 8 is this: there's apparently some premonitions associated with her, and it has to do with dreams. If she starts popping up within your dreams, then that's going to be a sign that not necessarily she's going to be around you specifically, like in other words, physically seeing her in terms of a half owl, half woman around you. No, but what it means instead is that there's going to be somebody in your family that is now going to die. presumably it's going to be somebody close. So maybe even somebody that you love. So think of her as maybe somebody on the lines of the Grim Reaper. She is there, she's making a warning, and then somebody else is going to die within your family soon. You may not know who that is, but at least that's a good indication that something is going to happen on there. Number 9, it ties into that as well. Apparently, whenever her appearances come up to, whether it's in a dream or in a physical stance, that means that something bad is going to happen as well to you. So think of her again, not on the lines of a Green Reaper, like if something bad is going to happen where it'll kill you, but something else. So in other words, it's going to be something on lines of a bad tornado is going to hit that area, or maybe something else, an earthquake, or maybe a fire, something along those lines. It's more closely related to accidental stuff that makes it seem like an accident, but she knows about it. Maybe she causes it or maybe she doesn't, but still, she knows that something's going to happen in that area, and so she pops up. It reminded me of the stories associated with the Mothman, how essentially the Mothman is able to show up at those places and then be able to warn people about some dangers that'll happen, and when that occurs, then it's bye-bye. Like, you have to be very, very careful at that point. And then number 10 is this. La Lechuza is very, very strong. I was mentioning that earlier. It's her size associated with her. Apparently, she can use her strength, her talons, her very large wings as well, to pick up fully grown men. So we're talking guys that are what, 200 pounds, something like that. If you think that you're a big, strong guy, 6 feet tall, you're going to be safe, what can she do, right? Carry you around? She can. She can actually do so. And that's basically going to be a good way for you to be her next meal. So you have to be very careful on that part too. Don't count on your size to come up as a deterrent. It doesn't matter to her. She has superhuman strength, so she'll be able to absolutely carry you around. And then I thought this, let me go ahead and do some bonus ones as well, associated with interesting things you didn't know about La Lechuza. We call her around here in the Texas area as Chucha as well. Kind of ties into something else I was mentioning earlier. The weather. Remember I was mentioning earlier about possible signs of her being premonitions of tornadoes and so on. Well, apparently she can control the weather too. She can create thunderstorms. She can create flash floods that basically come out of nowhere. This is again a way of her essentially trying to make sure that people crash or something happens, and when that occurs, then they'll become the next meal for her. And then number 12 on some of the bonus ones is this. You can actually also stop La Lechuza. So don't shoot her. Don't make her mad when you do that, in other words. Instead, one of the few ways you can get rid of her is salt. I have no idea why. Don't ask me why. But salt, apparently common salt, like salt you would put on food, it's a deterrent. You can actually have salt around you, and then that way La Lechuza will not do anything towards you, or at least stay away from you and then move on to someone else. I've heard the stories about that too, about people putting salt around their home, or people carrying, vials of salt and so on. So that's an interesting way of being able to do so. Another way is this. She apparently does not like confrontations. Like if you are screaming at her or if you are cursing at her, that's another way of essentially making sure that she stays away. Maybe it's something where she realizes that you're going to be a tougher target to get to, and so that's when she just goes to another spot or goes to someone else. And then number 13 is this, lucky number 13. For all her bad things and everything associated with her as far as scary encounters, one thing that is true is when it comes to her popularity, she still has many movies that are featuring her. Lots of discussions. I mean, I'm talking about her now, right? Here on this video. And then also lots of documentaries and then interviews and then paranormal cons where they feature discussions about her and so on. So, and TV shows too as well. So there's still lots of interest associated with La Lechuza, despite the fact that she apparently is one of the scariest creatures that you could ever run into. But people still love at least talking about her and are fascinated about her. And then it'll probably show too in the comments later on in this video when people start posting some of their own stuff as well. But otherwise, that's it. Now, as far as the encounters that we have had, I'll mention this. So if you wanted to take a look, just go on the search function on my channel, type in La Lechuza, and then you'll see some of those videos there. I've done interviews with both Virginia and then also Josie from the group that I'm in called Spectre. Jerry Ray as well is the founder of the group, and he in turn is giving an interview with that as well. They talk about and some of the scary encounters that they have had with La Lechuza. They are in an area that's even more remote in my Austin area than I'm at. So in other words, it's more like southwest central Texas. It's over by Victoria / Gonzales, somewhere out there. In other words, that have very remote areas. That is where La Lechuza is more prominent. And they talk about some of the experience that they have had, especially as children, and how they saw her. So if you wanted to hear more details about that, just take a look at the channel. And as far as our own encounter, we think we might have had a freaky encounter with her, but we didn't see her, but we did hear her. This was at the Haunted Magnolia Hotel, which is located in Seguin, Texas. We were talking about her and just thinking, what are the chances that we would run into her out there? Well, as we were sleeping overnight, all of a sudden, somewhere out there in the windows, we heard a very, very strong screech along with some very strong flapping, like something was outside the home area where we were at there at the Magnolia Hotel, but it was out of reach. Like we couldn't see it, but something was moving about. We were asleep. All of a sudden we heard this happening outside. And so we decided to wait a little bit in the room. I think I was more fascinated rather than scared at that time, but I don't know about the rest, but at least in my case, I was waiting to see, what's going to happen. What's going to happen? I almost had my phone ready to be able to do something. But no, that as quickly as it happened, that's when it stopped. That's when all of a sudden, whatever was outside had left, and we still don't know what it was. We couldn't see it again. We could just surmise, but we realized, oh my goodness, we were talking about her before. And then out there in the middle of Seguin, Texas, I imagine that's probably one of the prime lands too associated with Lechuza. So all of a sudden, there she was, you think? That's what we were thinking as well. And maybe it was her just making her presence known, letting us know that, hey, she's watching us. And then we didn't go outside, by the way, afterwards. We didn't take our chance on that, nor did we hear anything else either, too. But what a sight that would have been if we would have seen something like that, at least outside as well. But let me know what you guys think. 10 things you didn't know about, plus some bonus ones associated with La Lechuza. And let me know in the comments, too, if you had any creepy encounters with her, too. All right, everybody. Thanks again, as always. Take care. Bye.